special guest Drew McDonald and an NKU themed show today on the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. I'm your host, Josh Kalb. I'm joined with my co-hosts Bryan Bauer and Noah Miller, and as you can see, we have a special guest, former Norse, Mr. Drew McDonald. Drew, thanks for coming on today.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited. It's a great setup you guys got here. Should be fun.
It's safe to say the greatest Norse basketball player ever here. So we'll just get right in. You're from the area. You went to Newport Central Catholic High School. So what was kind of your basketball experience like at a young age?
I'm a coach's kid. My mom was a coach. She coached basketball at Newport Central Catholic, the varsity girls. So it started out of the womb, I like to say. I was in a gym. But I'd get done with school and I'd go. And what I thought would just be shoot around at my mom's gym was she would half coach her team and half coach my team. So I thought I was just having fun on the side. But it started there. My grandpa played basketball for Xavier back in the day. So definitely a basketball family. And I just loved it. I loved the competition. I loved the team environment. And anywhere I could have a chance to play basketball, my backyard, in a gym, I just loved it. I mean, I played 1-on-0 and make-up situations all the time. I mean, you talk about 5, 4, 3, and you miss a shot. You're like, oh, no, overtime.
You just redo it.
You just redo it. No one sees it. It's just me out back. But that's kind of where it all started. And I love the analytical side. I love the coaching side. And I think that comes from just being around it so much and being a coach's kid. And I just love basketball. I do. And I just try and be around it as much as possible, even to this day.
And your parents went to NKU, correct?
They did, yes. My mom played basketball at NKU and was an All-American when she played.
Wow.
Over 1,000 points. I think I got her on rebounds, though. So she gets me at Newcastle, but I think I got her here at Northern. And but I played a couple years of college tennis here as well. So a lot of family ties to NKU.
So, yeah, I mean, and did that impact your decision? I'm assuming. I feel like besides it being a local school, did that impact your decision any?
A little bit, yeah. I knew in the recruiting process I wanted to commit in the early session before my senior year started. Get that out of the way, just so I wasn't playing my senior year of high school with that weighing on me. And another thing, I wanted a school that wanted me. So if they didn't want me at that point, your second, third, fourth option when it comes to the second period. So I wanted a school that was on me early. And honestly, I got the offer from NKU. They were my first offer from Coach Beasled, and I considered it. I would probably say it wasn't likely I was going to go here. I kind of wanted to get an hour, 2, 3 away. And as things played out, this felt home. This felt like home, and my goal was always to go to the NCAA tournament. That was always my dream, and having a chance to start a Division I program per se. I mean, my freshman year we couldn't do anything, but to kind of start at that base level and build something that I could be a part of for years to come, go to games, enjoy, know the coaches, that's really what drew me in. And going to the tournament twice was just a cherry on top with my hometown local team that and I wouldn't have drew it up any other way. It all worked out in the end. And then my parents went here. Bill Akers, I'm related to Bill Akers, my great uncle, through the baseball complex. So add all of that in, it just made sense at the end of the day.
Yeah, so did you have any other schools giving you offers?
I did. So believe it or not, that school up north that we like to call it's Green and Gold, they recruited me pretty good. They offered me wrong state, yeah. And then UNC Asheville, I considered them a lot. I took several visits down there. St. Francis in Pennsylvania, Columbia University, the Ivy League. Those were probably my final 5, the 5 that wanted me the most. There were a few others that kind of were gaining interest late. Wichita State kind of stepped in a little bit later, but those were the 5 that I kind of narrowed it down to.
And you see how important, like how big the transfer portal is in today's game. I know it might not have been as important then, but a lot of these great players at these small schools are transferring to these bigger schools. Mm-hmm. Is that something you ever consider, or is it something that you would consider if you still played today?
Yeah, I mean, today it's way different than it ever was even 4 years ago when I played. And go back to 2016, my freshman year, I mean, you didn't transfer unless you were a grad student almost, or something was really, really bad within the program. And now the transfer portal gives players an opportunity to kind of explore their options. Good, bad, and different. It's just where we are in today's landscape of college basketball. But I think if you ask any player of any sport, there's that thought at some point in their college career, it's not going their way, where that transfer comes into their mind. And early in my freshman year, that it popped in my mind. Like I said, every athlete, you have those bad weeks in anything. It happens in your career, your student sports. It happens, and that's the idea. But as far as later on going up, no, that never popped in my mind. I love what we were building at NKU. I love where I was as a player, where I was as a student. I love the ties I've made, not only to the community, but to the university as well. And going up maybe to a Power 5 school, I had zero interest in at that time. I'd rather kind of write the final chapter of my book, how it was written my senior year, and it all ended up great. And that really never crossed my mind.
And that's really neat to see because you see a lot, again, those small players in today's game transfer to these bigger schools to get that opportunity. And one of the players I'm thinking of in the Horizon League this year was a player for Detroit Mercy, Antoine Davis. He was one of the leading scorers in the country, but decided to come back. And so it's really neat to see that. And so after you graduated, was there ever a thought of coaching or coming back, being involved?
I think everything's been on the table at some point since I've graduated. And I'm so glad I did this, I really poured everything I had into that senior year. I had agents talking to me going overseas. I had people asking if I wanted to coach. And I kind of made a deal with Coach Bryan at the time, like I'm going to push it all off. And that he would help me with it after, kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And I'm so glad I did that, just because there's so many external things going on. And it's already hard enough to be a college basketball athlete and then to try and get to the tournament and to focus on your schoolwork. It's already time management as you have to have that as a priority. So once it all ended, everything kind of slapped me in the face, which it was fine. And I explored the overseas option. I did. I went through the process with Coach Bryan, talked to agents, and kind of wrote that off. Coaching, everyone and their mom, I think, has told me I should be a college coach. And I love it. I love the game. I just don't think it's for me. I don't think it's for me at this time. And I help coach high school. I help coach my old alma mater at Newport Central Catholic now with one of the old coaches at Northern, Jake Lund. He took the job there, so I help him coach at New Cath, and I love it. I enjoy it. Say less. Everything's been on the table at some point. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, you mentioned the possible like overseas. What made you, or like when did you realize that like your basketball career you were probably just gonna like end it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably a couple weeks after it all ended. So we played in Tulsa on a Thursday, I believe. Afternoon was our tournament game, and we lost. Flew back that same night, got home. Obviously pretty emotional, how everything going on. My chapter at NKU was over. That Monday I met with Coach Brandon, and he was like, all right, what do you want me to do? He was great about it. He goes, I'll call any agents that you want. I got agents that have been contacting me. What do you want that process to look like? And I was like, Coach, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. So he kind of took some agents called. On my side, I called a bunch of my buddies overseas, talked with them, and pros and cons both ways. Really kind of dove deep into it because it's a pretty big decision if you want to leave. I mean, heck, I haven't left a 10-mile radius from NKU my entire life, and now I'm talking about going across the pond to go play basketball. But it just kind of hit me like all my dreams and goals were to go to the NCAA tournament, to play, to game-winning shot in the tournament. Like those were my dreams. It wasn't to play in the NBA. It wasn't to be a pro. And I was ready for that next chapter in my life, to start my business career, get going on that, and then kind of be a fan at that point. Leave the game on my terms, and eventually come back in as a coach, trainer, broadcasting, whatever that future may hold.
Yeah, and you mentioned that your mom was coaching you. So most coaches, especially like college, high school, whatever level it is, they prioritize you got to be a good student athlete, so a student comes first and pay attention to your grades. Was your mom like kind of like that with you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was any recruiting visit we went on. you'd meet with the coach and the trainer, and then you meet with the academic advisor, and that conversation always went the same way. Well, if they're getting whatever grade, we'll contact you. And she was more like, no, we'll contact you if he doesn't get A's, A's and B's. So she was a teacher there, so she always knew everything, and they kind of instilled that education's such an important aspect because the ball does stop bouncing. It does, no matter who you are. Whether you're myself or LeBron James, that ball is going to stop, and you're going to have a career outside of basketball. And you see that more in the NBA, like these players getting in business adventures outside of themselves, creating their own brands and stepping into shoe designs or buying other sports teams. So it's a really good lesson for these young kids to learn now.
So I got 2 questions. One is what was it like being coached by like a coach that you weren't recruited by? Because John Brandon ended up being your coach, and then what was John Brandon's culture like? And was he more offensively minded, defensively minded? Was it trying to be like balanced?
Yeah, those are 2 good questions. So a lot of people don't realize that Coach Beazold recruited me. I committed to Coach Beazold, and then Coach Brandon came in my first year. So I never got to play for Coach Beazold. But it helped because Grant Brandon, his brother, actually coached me for 2 years in high school, believe it or not. How everything comes full circle. But my freshman and sophomore year at Newcath, he was the head coach at Newcath. So I've known the family. I knew him. He called me the night he got the job and just kind of reinstilled, like, hey, we want you on the team. We're going to win a championship with some of these people. It's not going to be easy, but so just getting started on the right foot. And I think it was good for both of us that we both had a familiar face on the other side of the table. I could relate to him. He could kind of go through me as a leader as he came in to instill that culture, which he set. He came in and he was very championship. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to win a championship. And he's done it before, and he's instilled defense. I would say 70% of everything that we did was defensive-minded. However, he's one of the best offensive brains I've ever seen at any level. I mean, you give him a situation, time, score, they're playing this defense, and he can whip you something up, X's and O's real quick. So he had a very good balance of both. He realized he was so gifted offensively that we spend more time defense, and offense would come. But it was more just the off-the-court culture he created, the championship mindset, the toughness mindset, the trust within the players, and how we've become so close as a team. And I think that's really what made us special.
And I'm not going to dive into it deep because we all don't know the details of the whole situation with him at Cincinnati, but you took up for him. And so obviously he means a lot. He meant a lot to you. And it's just it was really neat to see a former player still like take up for him even though he's struggling at the moment.
Yeah, there was a whole group of us that we heard the things that were being said. We went through the things that they claimed they were going through, and we knew the entire staff over there, so we were in contact with them all. And like I said, there was probably 5 or 6 of us. Even Chris Vogt got involved, who was on both sides of the table. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but John did a lot for me. He gave me an opportunity here. He put me in a position of leadership that helped develop me not only as a player but as a character, and it was still benefit me today in my business career. And I got to know his family, his daughters really well, and just to see some of the stuff that they were putting him through and how the media can twist words and things like that is just felt like it was something that I needed to do. Get not only to get the truth out there, but help him in a time of need, especially when it wasn't going as people thought it would go. So
that's some things to take into consideration is the former players instead of the media. I mean, we all know how the media works with things. And
So to have someone that actually was with him for years and knew what that person was like, it's important to get that perspective, is the player's perspective.
For sure.
We don't really care what the media has to say because they're not the players, they're not the coaches. So.
Yeah. It's easy to leave out information.
Yeah.
It's easy to leave stuff out, to write a story how you want it to be written, and to kind of get that narrative that you want it to be. And I'll kind of leave it at that. I don't want to dig deep into it, but just we all understand how that works.
Yeah, so we'll get away from that. So you said that the practices were mainly defensive practice. Would you consider yourself more of a defensive player or an offensive player?
Yeah.
Offense.
All-time leading scorer at NKU.
Man, defense, no. I wasn't blessed as giftedly athletically as a lot of the players out there, and Division I or even Division II or even college basketball in general. Not to say I didn't work on it, not to say I couldn't improve, but I wasn't my strength. And obviously offense is fun, and that's what everyone likes to do. But I realized I had to take on more of a defensive role that was different than sit down, lock up, sky. So I really tried to take on the vocal anchor of the defensive role, know everyone's plays, their system, what they want to run, so I can communicate to guys, as well as blocking out and rebounding. I really took pride in rebounding. And I think rebounding is a skill and a habit that it comes down to mentality more so than anything, and that's really what I do. But to answer your question, offensive. Let's not get that twisted by any means. Offense.
Just to clarify, you lead the school in scoring and rebounding, defensive rebounding average, free throws made, free throws attempted, and games played. That's a mouthful, and there's a lot more here. Does it process to you how important and how good you were? Like, did that ever cross your mind? And you seem very humble, but does that ever cross your mind how important you were to the school?
When you're in college and you're playing and you have these goals and these things that you're trying to achieve, nothing that you do really process. Even when you're post-game winning the tournament and you sit back and look in the offseason like, oh, we went to the tournament, that's still like a very superficial processes with you. It's now as you get through and you look back, it's like everything that I've achieved individually and I've achieved as a team is just like, wow. And it never had anything to do with me wanting to be the leading scorer, leading rebounder. That had nothing. It was all team oriented. And I think that's just a great example how you can achieve more when it's about the team and not about yourself. I tell people all the time, like, I hope all my records get broken tomorrow if it means Northern goes farther in the tournament. Yeah. We go to bigger conferences. We continue to take it to a bigger platform. Like, it's none of the individual records are what mean most to me. It's the two Horizon League tournament championships, 2 regular season championships, playing in the tournament. Those are what I'm most proud of and what has really started to set in. And when I walk back in the arena, the banners hanging, that's really what sets in more than anything.
Was there a favorite opponent that you played or like team that you faced against?
Yeah, I mean, the Wright State games were always fun just because you're the 2 best teams in the conference, 2 best programs, 2 best fan bases, 2 best arenas, like hour and apart. I mean, I always had a road mentality. I always liked the away games. Not that I didn't love playing in front of you guys, but I loved walking into another opponent's arena in front of 6,000 people, and it's you guys. It's only your team that you have to rely on. And even up there, we would have 2,000 and 3,000 people of our most vocal fans, and you could hear them cheering louder than the Wright State fans. So I always loved those games. The Kentucky game in the NCAA tournament, I mean, how do you not like playing Kentucky at the biggest level with Jim Nance and Bill Rafferty calling your game? I mean, that was one of my favorites. Texas Tech, obviously, just for the setting. Oakland was always fun to play. They always had a ton of talent. Coach Campy's a legend in his own right, being there. Not an easy team to play, as they always had a bunch of different sets and put their guys in the right position, but they were always fun to play. I always had great success against Youngstown individually. Always, for some reason, played well against them. Even the games I didn't feel like I played well, you went back and looked at the stats, like, man, they had a good stat line. So, I mean, you find your comforts and niches as you play.
Which team would you say like chirped you the most?
Texas Tech was the toughest team I ever played. Over the Kentucky team with Bam and everything like that. Valpo, when Valpo was in the conference, we went up there and played. That was a really difficult game as well. Just their togetherness, their defense. I think they were number 1 in the country in defense at that time. And it's just good luck. That's all I can say is good luck. But those are just some of the ones that were difficult.
It had to be kind of cool to see the team that Texas Tech you lost to went to the national championship that year. So,
yeah.
I mean, like if you're gonna lose, that's a good way. I mean, you say
you lost to the runner-up. Like,
yeah.
You can't be upset.
They should have won it all if their big guy Tariq Owens doesn't get hurt in the semifinal game.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget about that. I hurt his ankle, and he really anchored their defense. And I think they beat. I mean, they went to overtime with Virginia. They win that game with Tariq Owens, but I mean, we played them tough. It was a 2-point game at half, and I want to say, don't quote me on this, but we played them the closest all up until their Final Four games. And that included Gonzaga, Michigan, Buffalo. They played some good teams, and I mean their defense, like I said, their togetherness. They had Jared Culver, was a lottery pick, obviously, but then they just had great pieces around them, and they just team basketball. And what Chris Beard did down there was really special.
And then Kentucky went against their big man, Bam, and now to see De'Aaron and Malik and Bam in NBA, if you sit down and watch a game, you're like, wow, I played against those players. That has to be special.
Yeah, I mean that was the most talented team we ever played against for sure. And it is cool to see these guys that you played against, and even some like Kendrick Nunn played at Oakland. He has a huge role with the Lakers now, won Rookie of the Year, and see guys like that. Others, I mean, like Kay Felder was at Oakland, made it to the league and was in the league for a while. Alec Peters at Valpo, just all these guys that you see, not even the high major guys that everyone knows about. You kind of follow them and you're like, oh, that's still in the league. Duncan Robinson, we played at Michigan and signs a $100 million deal up for the Heat. It's just you see these guys, and it's pretty cool just to be like, yeah, I know what their scouting report says. I know what they did, and it gives me another reason. I love college basketball. It's my favorite sport. NBA. But it gives me a reason to follow the NBA. It really does.
So you can be like, oh, yeah, I played well against him. Oh, I beat that guy's team. You know, you can always be like, yeah, I played against him. He's in the NBA.
Or I watch Bam Adebayo break a rim when I played against him. That's fine. Just dunking the ball. No, it's fun. It is really fun to watch them. And then now I have former teammates overseas following, trying to get in the league and stuff like that. So it's really cool to follow all that.
As far as your teammates that you played with, was there anyone that kind of stood out just as how talented they were?
I always say Levon Holland's the best basketball player that ever played at Northern Kentucky University. And if you watch the Kentucky game or you watch the finals against Milwaukee in 2017, it's on display. Really gifted athlete, really big care factor for his teammates. I was a roommate with him for 3 years. One of my best friends to this day still. Just the talent that he possessed and the way he cared for his teams and wanted to win basketball games and would show up in the biggest moments. I'd take him on my team any day. I don't care who you put up against. I mean, like I said, go watch the Kentucky game. He was the best player on the court, period. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Bama, I don't care. Levon Holland was the best player on the court. We all remember his dunk.
I do remember that.
We all remember his dunk. But, I mean, he was the best player on the court, and I think he's the best player to ever wear black and gold, to be honest with you.
It's really neat from someone like you to say. I mean, I want to read through some of your accomplishments here real quick. I'm not gonna read through all of them, but just AP All-American honorable mention. You were the Horizon League Player of the Year, 3-time All Horizon League First Team 3 times, and Horizon League All Freshman. I mean, you had all of these accolades, and yet guys like Levon Holland, I mean, were really good. I mean, you all kind of set the standard for NKU basketball.
Yeah. I think it's a nod to Levant. Like, you can read those stats and all that stuff, and obviously I'm honored to have all that kind of stuff. But, like, you look at him, you look at Jalen Tate, who went to Arkansas and was the best player on their Elite 8 team. You look at Dantez Walton, who's now in the G League and been playing overseas for a couple years. You just look at Jeff Garrett, who didn't even really play that much, who a lot of people forget about. He's playing in Euroball over in he was in the Ukraine before all this stuff happened. But, I mean, you look at those guys, and I think it really speaks to our team of we didn't care who got the success. We really didn't. It was all about that final scoreboard at the end of the day. And, was I the one that ended up with most of the awards and the accolades? It was. But like I said, that's not what drove me. It was walking back in the arena and seeing those banners. I think that's kind of our team mindset and why we achieved so much. And really what we hope we set the standard, as you speak to, moving forward is, all right, this is where we're at. This is what we accomplished. Build on it now. Build on it. All right, expectations are a good thing. We expect to be playing in tournaments. It's not. Some people are like, oh, how? It's a good thing. Let's have expectations. What, do you want expectations to not be good?
Yeah.
Let's have expectations to go to the tournament. Not saying if we don't, it's an unsuccessful year, but let's expect to play in the tournament. Let's expect to start winning first-round games. Let's expect to start looking at the Horizon League and maybe saying, let's look at the A10 or Conference USA or the Sun. Let's set those expectations, and we set the bar here. Let's continue to raise that thing, and that's really what we hope to do at NKU.
And like you said, the expectations. I mean, they were tied for first in the preseason poll with Purdue, Fort Wayne, and there are a lot of expectations. I mean, when we watch them in the conference tournament, we kind of expect, okay, maybe they can win this thing, like because you all went twice, and it's just kind of an expectation. But some of those players on this team this year are from Kentucky, so they're best players. I mean, Sam Vincent is from Highlands, Trayvon Faulkner, Mr. Basketball, Minta Mercer, and Warwick from Henry Clay. So it has to be pretty cool to see those guys that are in Kentucky, from Kentucky, especially Vincent from Northern Kentucky around here, play for your former team.
Oh, for sure. Anytime you can get a Kentucky kid or a Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati area kid, it just means more to them. It not saying it doesn't to the other players, but to rep Kentucky, rep your home state on your jersey, like it just means more. And we had a great deal of success recruiting Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana kids. Now we're getting a big national brand. We can start venturing out more. Chris Brandon went to school in Houston, Texas. I know when was at an open practice the other night, and they had kids from Georgia and Suriname and Lithuania and the Congo, and we can start broadening our horizon. But at the same time, we have these kids at home who are pretty good, and we're getting better and better. And it's just cool to see that tradition continue. And I think it helps the fans stay connected. They see the kids playing high school, see them playing the state tournament. Helps them stay connected to the program as well. And obviously for me, I stayed home, and it worked out pretty well. But and then you see them go to the tournament, and don't get me wrong, expectations, yes, that's what we want. It's still special anytime you go. It's still really, really hard to go. NCAA tournament's the hardest championship to win, in my opinion. You got to win 6 games, one and out, one bad game, and you're done. I mean, you see it. Virginia having UMBC, 16 seeds. You see it happen all the time. It's not a best-of-7 series. It's not. If it was like that, I guarantee you go back and look, and a lot of teams don't win it the last couple of years. So it's still really hard to get there, but those expectations and to do it with local kids is really cool to see.
Yeah, you said these accolades aren't really what drove you to succeed, and you mentioned that the team that you were on really didn't care about who scored the most points, who led this and that. It was just all about winning. I feel like a lot of teams, when they focus on just winning the game, like they succeed and they go further than some teams where they have players that are like, I want to be the highest scorer, want to lead the team and all that.
Absolutely. I think that's really anything you do in life. If you make it about someone else, you make it about your teammates, you make it about your coworkers, you make it about your family. Not only one is it going to be easier for you and you're going to achieve more, but two, you're going to achieve more together doing that. That's part of the culture Coach Brandon instilled in us. Phil Jackson quote, good teams become great teams when you sacrifice the me for the we. And it's true, and it's lived out. Like go look up at that 2018 roster that we had. I think I counted we had 7,000-point scorers on that roster, most of which are pros. Carson Williams tried out in the NFL. Like, just look at the talent on that team and what we were able to achieve, and what they were able to achieve post-career. Chris Vogt goes to Wisconsin. You see in Wisconsin and plays. Jalen Tate goes to Arkansas. We have all these pros, and it really started there. And you realize, don't make it about yourself. Make it about each other. You make it about each other, you're going to achieve more, they're going to achieve more, and together you're going to set heights that this school or that school or this program has never seen before.
Now, playing in the tournament, was practice any different, or like prepping was any different? Because you don't get nearly as much rest, especially if you like win a tournament game.
Yeah, there was a little bit. I mean, obviously, you have a little bit more juice coming to practice knowing, hey, I'm coming to the tournament. But we really had a mentality of every game we took the same. Faceless opponent. Didn't matter if it was Youngstown, if it was Tiffin, if it was University of Kentucky on the biggest stage. We really tried to have that faceless opponent control us, do what we need to. But at the same time, you're in tournament play now. You know, if you win on Friday, you play Sunday against an opponent. So we really try and break it down to little 4-team tournaments. So like our tournament for Kentucky was us versus Kentucky, and then Wichita State played Dayton right before us. So we said, all right, win this game, win that game. Fresh that, we have another week to prepare. So that's kind of the mindset we took in. Let's win your 4-team tournament. Obviously, that didn't work out for us either time. Got a couple tough draws and gave some good efforts, but it's you don't want to get out of who you are. You want to keep to your habits. You want to do your same thing, because the moment you start doing stuff out of body, out of character, it might not. The results won't be there for you.
And I'm sure the feeling had to be a little bit different, but we're going to talk a little bit more about those NCAA tournament games after a quick break here. More from Drew McDonald next on the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. Welcome back, everyone, to our second segment with Drew McDonald. This is the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. And as I mentioned before the break, we were going to talk about your NCAA tournament games a little bit more. And during the break, we were talking about, you said that one game was in Indianapolis and the other was in Tulsa. So what were those atmospheres like, even not just in the arena, but in the city in general?
Yeah, it was kind of two, I don't want to say polar opposite, but pretty two different experiences. First time we went was in Indianapolis. You're playing UK, night game. It was like a 10:30 tip, which was really weird. I think it got pushed back. I think it was like 9:45. Got pushed back to 10:30. But you had Jim Nance, Bill Rafferty, Grant Hill calling the game, Tracy Wolfson, Andy Katz, like all the guys you see on TV.
Yeah.
Just walking around, pulling you for interviews. You're talking to Jim Nance after, who, by the way, when you talk to him, sounds exactly what he likes. Like he doesn't change his voice at all. And that is how he sounds like.
So what do you speaking of that real quick, what do you think of him leaving?
Heartbroken.
He's done with the Final Four.
Heartbroken. I mean, it's going to be weird here in the Final Four without him calling it.
It is.
He's
He's the
hello
voice.
friends, just everything that he has. He's an icon, and like I said, when you talk to him, that's his voice. That's what he sounds like, and it's just kind of cool to see it. Then you get Kentucky on that stage, and it's like that's one opportunity. And then the next one was you play in Tulsa. You play Texas Tech, who's not a national brand like UK is. In the middle of a Thursday at 1:30 in the city, not a ton going on in Tulsa, but people showed out. I was really thankful for the NKU fans that made the trip. A lot of Red Raider Nation made the trip up there too. But it worked out well. The first time, as much as you don't want to say it, we were happy to be there. We were the 4th seed in the conference tournament. We ended up winning the tournament. You're happy to be there. All the fans could come. The second one, we were on a mission. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we were on a mission to win that game. So to get a 1:30 tip in the middle of nowhere against Texas Tech, we thought it was a good draw for us. Come to find out, Texas Tech was probably the best team in the country that nation. But the two different experiences was really cool to get both sides of the coin. So.
And was NKU fans? Did they do pretty well at traveling to those two places?
In Indianapolis, we had a great turnout. Only a 2-hour trip up 74. It was a great turnout. It was kind of cool because if you either like UK or you hate UK, so like us, and we had Wichita State next to it, so it felt like it was all NKU fans, and you had some Dayton fans here and on, and then the rest of the stadium was blue, and that's just how it is. But down to Tulsa, we had a whole section, and I was really appreciative of the people that made the trip, fly or drive. I know my parents drove, but it's not easy to get down there. But a chance to play in the tournament and to watch us play in the tournament is special. And like I said, I would love to, when NKU goes back, I'd love to go to those games wherever they're at. I hope they're in like the middle of Florida on beaches and stuff like that.
And you'd have a little bit more opportunity to see the city and do a couple different things than when
Yeah, if they want to go to Spokane and play, I'd still probably go and watch, but I'd rather go to San Diego.
Yeah.
Orlando. Come on.
It's a little bit different as a
NCAA, get my tips, please.
And what about at home games? Like I'm assuming, especially after the first tournament appearance, and you all were really good, I'm sure there was a lot of fans that showed out to even home games.
Oh, for sure. I think season ticket sales rose, student attendance rose, and that's, not to get away from student attendance is where it's all at. We can get as many season tickets, we can get as many fans there as we want. Students set the environment, no matter where you're at. You talk about Cameron Indoor Stadium, you talk about the Cameron Crazies. You talk about these mid-major programs, you talk about their student sections. That's what gets the environment going. And it's good basketball. It's great mid-major basketball what they're producing out there in Truist Arena right now. Students, go to the game. It's free. You bring your all card, go to the game. Indulge in the experience. Like, you have a chance to be part of a team that can make a run in the tournament and win a game and get to the second weekend. Coach Horn's done it before. We have 4 seniors returning who have this experience, and first team, second team, third team players. It's a chance for you to get involved and to be invested. So, not to get away from your question, but yes,
You're fine.
The home crowd really showed out. And one thing about being in Kentucky, basketball, They're dedicated fans. They're knowledgeable about the game. They know when to cheer. They know when to kind of harass the refs a little bit. They know when, as a player, you need to pick me up. And they're passionate. Like it's for such a young program, only being Division I for how many years now. It's a passionate program. And Division II, we had so much success. We had great foundation to build on, and we are a very passionate fan base. So to have that behind us, I mentioned us and Wright State have the two biggest crowds. It's definitely an advantage in the Horizon League.
So from the coaches, your teammates you've played, and the student sections and the fans, what would you say is like your most memorable experience or moment, or your favorite moment of playing in college?
There's so many of them. Like the thing that the thing I miss the most is my teammates, and like you live with them, you're with them every day. You go to class with them sometimes. Like you're on 6-hour bus trips, you're in hotel room. Like you see them way more than you see your actual family. And then all of a sudden you graduate and it's all gone. Like just the brotherhood you build with them, and I talk to them till to this day, a ton of them, and memories here and there. I miss that. I miss that camaraderie we had, for whatever it was. I mean, we went from practice to we'd hang out together to we had a Saturday night off. We'd go out on the town somewhere. It was everything we did was together. So I missed that. That's probably what I missed the most. It's tough to beat the game-winning shot I hit against Oakland for like moment. It wasn't anticipated, like wasn't planned. This senior year, end of senior year, like make it or go home moment, like that's in the way we went on to beat Wright State, and then the 2 games in the tournament. I mean, it's tough to beat that too. So again, I don't know if I answered your question specifically. I kind of gave you the shot, the 2 tournament experiences, the brotherhood I've built, the connections I still have to this day. That's what sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, it can be a multiple choice answer.
Yeah.
So.
All of the above. Anything that happened from 2016 to 2019. Well, maybe not everything. There were some ups and downs in the road. But.
What were the Horizon League tournaments like? I mean, and we asked about the NCAA tournament, but as a fan, I can say that I love watching those small conference tournaments more than the Power 5 ones, because those Power 5 teams all have a chance.
No doubt. I mean, Champ Week, which is the week of all the conference tournaments, is arguably the second best week in college basketball. First week of the tournament, like how do you beat that?
Yeah.
Champ Week, I'd probably put second. It's that's what you're playing for. All those small teams, those mid-major teams, it's win or go home. It's what their whole season comes down to. Sure, you get North Carolina play Virginia Tech, like those teams might both go to the tournament. Like it'd be nice to win, but they're not. I mean, I challenge anyone to go watch a mid-major tournament. I mean, the level of basketball, the level of passion, the level of energy in those games is unmatched. And the Horizon League tournament, we had great setups up in Detroit for my 4 years. Joe Louis Arena for 2, Little Caesars for 2, playing in the Pacers Arena, like big level atmosphere. The first year, Milwaukee whooped their butt. We don't talk about that one.
Not one of the favorite moments.
No,
list.
that first year was you win 9 games. There's not a lot of high moments in the 9-win season. The second year, that's when we won it all. We were the 4 seed. We were going in and playing Wright State in the first round. We're just like, all right, let's take care of this one. That mindset, survive and advance. All of a sudden, we're watching, and Green Bay beats Valpo, the 2 seed. Oakland hits a game winner, or Youngstown hits a game winner to beat Oakland. The 9 seed advances. All of a sudden, we're watching pregame, and USC defeated Green Bay. My bad. Milwaukee defeated Valpo. And all of a sudden, we're the highest seed left in the tournament. Now we have those expectations that we've never had before to win this thing. And we're like, whoa, what just happened? So then we beat Wright State. Now it's like, all right, you literally have a 9 seed in Youngstown, the 10 seed in Milwaukee, and the 6 seed in UIC left. Whoa, we have a chance.
It's for the taking.
It's ours. It's there. But that team, like that 2017, that's just kind of what happens. Like we were so close on the 2017 team. It was all about what was best. We had some former players who before Coach Brandon. We had some current players from Coach Brandon. You had me that was kind of in the middle. Like we just wanted success. We've never tasted at that level. We went from 9 wins to 24 wins. Like, and that team, it just kind of fell into our laps. So it was day by day, whatever we needed to do. And that's kind of how that tournament arose. The following year, another low moment. We lose to Cleveland State in the first round. We coming off a tournament appearance. We won the regular season. Probably the most talented team in NKU history when you look at it. And we go up there and just shows you one lapse of moment, and you can lose. It's what makes Champ Week special. Like, we were up huge in the first half, and Tyree Appleby and Cleveland State came down, and they beat us. There's not much to say, and that was tough. So really going back into that last tournament, there was a different mindset. Nothing was going to get in our way at that point. Oakland tried, and once we got over that hump, go watch that Wright State game. It was never in doubt. It never was in doubt. So those tournaments are fun. They're intense. You're staying in the hotel with all the other teams. It's nerve-wracking. You have anxiety, but it's really a fun week of basketball.
Going back to the Wright State game, being up so much in the beginning, is it the way you play any different, or is it just all gas, or do you kind of like slow down a bit and try and control the ball and the clock?
I think we were in a moment where we came off high emotion the night before. I can go one of two ways. If you go look, any game that ends on a late night buzzer beater like I play the next day, the team either sinks and tanks, or there's nothing stopping them. And there was just a sense in that locker room. Yes, we celebrated, but it was like, all right, it's not done. Job's not done. Kobe being Ryan, job's not done. And we went on the court, and Wright State, we had a sense Wright State didn't want us to hit that shot. They'd rather see Oakland, and Coach almost could step back, and we just played basketball. And it just anything that we did that day was going to work. Sinai Robinson came out and hit 3 threes to start the game. He had 9. Dantez Walton started line. I don't think I scored until a couple minutes ago in the first half. It was just like, it was awesome. Like, Wright State, I kid you not, came out to us after halftime and was saying, congrats, you better win a game in the tournament, as there were 20 minutes left on the clock. They knew it. We knew it. End of game.
Wow. Yeah.
That's wild. That's a wild story.
Yeah.
That game was probably the best game I've been a part of that we've played as a team. It's crazy.
It was just complete all around. I like watching games like that where it's never in doubt.
Never. I mean, they hit a couple shots late. I think it ended up being 11.
Yeah.
My memory serves me. I was like 77-66 or something like that.
I remember getting a little scared. I was like, oh no, those shots are dropping.
It was never in doubt. No.
Yeah, well, they were telling you that. Were you just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
there's still plenty of time left.
Yeah, you're kind of taken in shock because, I mean, to get to that level as a player and to be as good of a team as they were, they're competitive. They're competitors, and you don't give up, you don't quit. So you hear that from another competitor, albeit Wright State, whether it was Youngstown, to hear it from another competitor at that stage, you're just kind of like, all right, whatever, and you just kind of put it off. But then, like, you sit there and think, you go, no, they really were done. Like, they really tapped out, and I don't think it would have mattered one way or another. But it was kind of shocking. It was shocking. Yeah, it was confusing.
Yeah, you typically don't see that or almost don't want to hear that because you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We have about under 2 minutes left to go in the segment. So real quick, I just want to get, what would you like to say to Norse fans about the upcoming season with the caliber of players they have?
Like I said, dive in. Students, fans, community, dive in. You're in for a special year. Coming off a tough loss the last year, real tough up there in Indianapolis. I can tell you they're motivated. They're number one in the preseason poll for a reason because they're talented. You got a great staff on board, an experienced staff. Have another great opportunity to go to the tournament. And that's what our expectation should be to put ourselves in a position to go to the tournament every year. And when we win the tournament, that's just special. It's special. But dive in. Be a part of it. Don't hop in late. Don't come in mid-February and be like, oh, this team's pretty good. Let me see what they're all about. They're pretty good. Jump in now. Why not? It gives you a chance to follow a team for a year. You have local kids, Sam Vincent, Marcos Work, Trayvon Faulkner, we just talked about. I like to call them the Big Four. You got your Big Four returners, and those three plus Chris Brandon. You got transfers coming in. Xavier Rhodes, who I watched play and seen him practice really quick, exactly what they needed, elite ball handler. You got some players that are developing. We call him I-Man. Big kid from Suriname who's really developing, putting on weight. Could be a really good player. Trey Robinson, who's continued to grow and develop. Really deep roster, really talented roster. A chance to really
like those expectations, like you said.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a lot more about NKU for the rest of the show, but stay tuned. This is the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. Welcome back, everyone, to the last segment of the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show. If you're just tuning in, I'm Josh Kalb with Noah Miller, Bryan Bauer, and special guest Drew McDonald. Drew, we talked a lot about your experience, but we're going to talk a little bit more about this upcoming season for the men's basketball team, maybe women's basketball team if we get to it. I'll just give a little information about how they ended last season, coming off a 20-12 record last season, losing in the Horizon League Championship to the rival Wright State, 72-71. A tough way to lose. I remember watching that game, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they lost that game. I thought they had it.
Yeah, I was there. They were up big midway through the second half, and Wright State does what any good programs do. They just chip away, give themselves a chance to win. They had a shot to go up with a few seconds left, and then we couldn't convert. It was a tough way to end.
Yeah, the play they called up near at the end confused me because the player held on the ball so long, and I was like, oh no, what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's a play they've been practicing throughout the year, and for a situation like that, and he got the ball in Sam's hands, and he tried to make a play, and you can look back and say, should he have shot it before kicking it? You can look at a bunch of different things, but the way it ended is how it ended. And I'm sure Coach Horn and the staff has been kicking themselves. The players have been kicking themselves, but it's only going to lead to a more prosperous year this year. I promise you that.
A lot of expectations, like we talked about for the Norse. They were tied for first in the preseason poll with Purdue, Fort Wayne. It's the 6th year they've been ranked top 3, but the first time they've been ranked first, which with the teams that you all had is just unbelievable. It's the first time they've been.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. We're like, with how talented these teams were, how is this the first time they're being picked first?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, but now that you bring it up, I guess it is like that. And we never put any stock into the preseason poll. There's some, especially this year, with this culture, the landscape of college basketball, transfers in and out, you have no idea what teams are going to be. You don't know what they have in their pipeline developing as players, but it is nice to finally get some recognition that they deserve. I think rightfully so.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you just look at the stats, plain and simple, with Warwick, Faulkner, and Vincent coming back, like we said. I mean, Warwick is preseason All-Horizon League first team, and Vincent and Faulkner on the second team. I mean, you have your 3 leading scorers, Warwick with 16.8 points, Faulkner 11.8, and Vincent 11.2. These guys lead the team, and against some of the others, like you said, like Chris Brandon, who was a huge part, and then the transfers. So there's a lot to look for with this team.
Oh, a whole lot. Just like going off some of the guys, like Trayvon Faulkner. I had a chance to play with Trayvon. We kind of overlapped. It's crazy to think. I think he's in his 14th year of college basketball at this point. But he brings a veteran leadership to this team. Really vocal, kind of the heart and soul of the team, which is really important. Marquez, obviously first team, super talented player. Got off to a slow start last year, but when you go back and look at when he started to find his stride last year is when they went out and rallied like 16 of 18 in a row. Can score the ball at a high level, shoots the ball at a high level. Sam comes from a winning program at Highlands, won a state championship. Winning, he's a winner. That's what you do. I think that goes very underrated today. You look at all the talented, but you got to win the games. Chris Brandon's top 5 rebounder in the country. Any level, offense, defense, top 5 rebounder. And then you get into the bench. But, I mean, starting with those 4, I would be scared if I was a Power 5 team looking at their conference. Looking at that in the play game.
Speaking of Power 5 team, one of the Power 5 teams they play, I believe it might be the only one, is Washington State. And we've talked about in our shows in the past weeks, that's a great opportunity to get a Power 5 win.
It is. Trust me, there's a lot that goes into scheduling. Being part of it, they look at teams, and it's kind of the one thing we've been missing as a program is that Power 5 win. I mean, we beat West Virginia back in the D2 days as an exhibition. We got UC coming in, which is another great opportunity, but chance to go to the West Coast, an isolated road trip. That's the only game you got on that road trip. All your focus can be on that game. Chance to maybe clip a Pac-12 team would be big for this program.
And I think this team has the depth and talent to do that. Washington State hasn't relatively been a strong basketball team, so
sure.
It would be really nice for the program to be like, see, we can beat Power 5 teams. Mm-hmm. We are one of those high top-level mid-majors. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting to think about.
It is.
Yeah, it's and there's a reason there's not a ton of Power 5 teams on the schedule. Power 5 teams don't want to schedule this team. You look at the experience coming back, the talent that they have. The last thing that, let's just throw out, an Oklahoma State wants to do is to buy Northern Kentucky coming there, lose the game. That's a huge mark on their resume, regardless of how good or bad the committee just looks at it and sees all non-Power 5 comes in, beats you.
I feel like we've seen that a lot the last few years in college basketball. Like Evansville went into Rupp Arena, beat Kentucky. Stephen F. Austin went into Duke and beat them all in the same year.
God, that was so fun.
It was unbelievable.
So that's So if you go look at the better mid-major basketball programs, you see them playing each other a lot, and then you'll see them only get 1 or 2 big games. That's why those Power 5 teams don't want to schedule teams like us this year that have a lot of experience returning.
Yeah, you see that in football too. They don't want to risk that chance. And it's kind of disappointing that the way everyone looks is like, they're mid-major. I was like, yes, but mid-major teams consistently do win in the tournament. I mean, George Mason went to a Final Four in their history. Butler was a Horizon League team and went to a Final Four.
Look what Loyola Chicago's done the last couple of years. Like, it's possible. They're good basketball. The depth of college basketball and basketball players now is just, I mean, you got top 300 kids who are just as good as top 100 kids that are falling to these mid-major programs, and it's crazy.
With the transfer portal, you see these teams that say, these mid-major teams aren't good, and then start taking their players. And, it's a kind of a just...
Yeah, and that's what's fun about college sports in general is that really it seems like you look at a matchup and you're like, this team is going to blow this team out, but it's not always the case in some games.
Yeah, and especially in the tournament. I mean, you always have a chance. You always have a chance.
Yeah, always have a chance.
Always have a chance.
What are your thoughts on the UC game? Because in this community, it's huge. It's huge this year.
Massive. We got a big-time program, a relevant program, a program that the community and the university is very familiar with being across the gym, and they played in our arena a couple years ago. Coming to our arena with this veteran team back, probably the biggest crowd it's gonna sell out. I mean, the lower bowl's already sold out. It's gonna sell out. Just the opportunity, and as a player, you can't think like that because, like I said, once you get outside of those, your habits that you do, you get out of character is when the results don't show. But it's hard not to circle that date.
Yeah.
I think it's November 16th. Just excited, ready to go. I'm going to be there as a fan. I hope we get all of Norse Nation there, and I hope it's not only a chance for us to beat a team, but a chance for this community to come out and see the team that we're capable of being and to propel that into future attendance, ticket sales, packing Norse Nation in as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think it's a good game just for the culture all around, seeing local teams play, because typically we don't get to see Xavier play Miami or UC play Bowling Green, so to get to see those local games, it's just fun.
Yeah, that's really fun. I think it should happen way more often. I mean, obviously we get Wright State and Conference, UC and Xavier play each other. We might get an occasional UC or Xavier. We play Miami here and there every once in a while. We got Eastern for the last couple years consistently. It's just good for local talent to play against local talent. A lot of those kids go to high school together. They know each other playing AAU teams and stuff. And just to bring that to the college game is just really fun. And, I mean, let's be honest. Is it more beneficial for a fan to see Northern playing Miami of Ohio or Northern playing Idaho? Like, nothing against Idaho. I'm sure they have great fans and great athletes out there. But you just don't get the excitement coming in. You don't get that excitement.
So much built around it. It should be an awesome atmosphere. But while we have some time, I do want to talk about the women's basketball team, who I feel like can be overlooked at times. And I was looking at the record last night, and they're 21-8 last season. That's a great record for a mid-major school. And they have their best player back, Lindsay Duval, a transfer from Louisville, who's just a powerhouse in women's basketball. I mean, this should be a big season for the women's.
Oh, absolutely. I think since Coach Witt's come on, they've just continued to get better. You hear it all the time, get 1% better. You just talk about climbing that next rung. I feel like that's exactly what Coach Witt has done with the women's program, and they continue just to climb that ladder, 6th to 5th to 4th to 3rd. I think they're pre-ranked 4th, and Lindsay Duval comes in from Louisville. I think she was a 5-star coming out of high school. Yeah, I mean, she's a first-team all-player. Ivy Turner's back, and it's a chance for them to compete again. I know the women's side of the Horizon League's been loaded for years. Green Bay used to be really good. IUPUI had a pro just drafted.
Wow.
Yeah, so I know the women's side, I think it's an opportunity for Coach Witt and her team this year to really have a lot of success.
And
I think that's also just good for the culture.
It
and
is,
even,
yeah.
Like men's being as good for the girls team, and back and forth. You just want to keep bringing as much attention as you can to the school.
Absolutely.
And really any sport that is good, especially for a school this size, any sport is great. And so the NKU men's, real quick, let me find it. So they actually defeated Tiffin in a scrimmage on Monday and take on Transylvania next Tuesday, with the money going toward the Eastern Kentucky flood relief, which is just awesome. And their season starts actually next Monday, or actually I got my timers wrong. I apologize. Their season starts against Kent State at home in Truist Arena, and the women's season starts. I'm not sure where that is. It starts against Lipscomb, so on Tuesday. So it's coming soon.
I think that Kent State game is actually going to be a very big game because they had a really solid basketball team and they played some teams really well. I think this will be a good I'm not going to call it a warm up game, but it's definitely a good game to play as your first one. You get to really have a challenge and see where your players are at.
Kent State was actually just picked to win the MAC by the coaches poll, so you're getting 2 first place teams and 2 of the best conferences in the East Coast area playing against each other. It's going to be a great game. I think they got their all first team player returning as well. So
it's a big game. Come out and support and watch these teams. These teams have a lot of potential for this season. We have about 30 seconds left of the show. Drew, I just want to thank you again for coming on. I know it's interesting to hear a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that you don't usually get to hear. And we hope you enjoyed the show of just NKU. I know we cover college football and NFL some weeks, but this was for NKU.
Yeah, give it a...
From Drew McDonald, Noah Miller, Bryan Bauer, and myself, Josh Kalb, this has been the NKU Sports Talk Radio Show.